Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever.
They knew they couldn't tell the truth about Obamacare and have a chance of passing it, even with its Democratic Senate with 60 votes.
I think the fact of the matter is this was a very difficult undertaking, but ultimately this is a law that has had significant benefits for millions of people. It is Republicans who have been less than forthright and transparent about what their proposed changes to the Affordable Care Act would do.
Let's bring in our panel. Syndicated columnist George Will, Ron Fournier, senior political columnist of National Journal, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. George.
I wish Fox News Channel, through our Roger Ailes, would give Mr. Gruber his own show so that he could talk and talk and talk. Because the more he talks, the more the American people understand two things. First, the academic culture that is the incubator of the progressive spirit in this country. He's arrogant, he's condescending, and he's not just indifferent to, he's actually hostile to the ethics of democratic deliberation. But more than that, they would understand the long pedigree of what he just said. He was channeling Herbert Crowley, who 104 years ago, as he was becoming the founding editor of the New Republic magazine, which is to this day a beacon of progressive thought, he published a book called The Promise of American Life. And in it he said the following: the average American individual is morally and intellectually inadequate to a serious and consistent conception of his responsibilities, which is why progressivism for 100 years has said we need a clerisy, a small clerisy of experts to regulate and manage the bovine masses who do not know how to conduct their lives. This is a tutorial we're getting this week in the progressive spirit.
Ron, does this change the dynamic as we head now to a Republican-held Congress? Does it change the dynamic about the perception of the law?
Yeah, it undermines the president's credibility even further. It undermines the central element of the Democratic Party, that a government is honest and transparent and can get things done well. It undermines their faith, frankly, in the media, which to a large degree has been giving this whole issue a pass. I've been really struck by the fact that, okay, this is a Democratic lie, so we'll pass on it. I've seen in the past where Republicans have taken a pass on Republican lies. It's like we have blue lies and red lies in this country, and of course white lies, honey, that dress doesn't make you look too fat. I'm of the view there's just only one, lie is a lie is a lie is a lie. This is not only a lie, but it's insulting to the American people to say that we're stupid. And yes, it's going to affect the president's ability to be able to have any credibility with the public and defend this law.
What
and
is
I say
amazing,
that as somebody actually who would like to see this law work.
Yeah.
And it's offensive.
And you wrote about it. What is amazing is also the minority leader currently was asked again today about Gruber's comments. Take a listen to Nancy Pelosi now, then, and what Gruber said.
Mr. Gruber's comments were a year old, and he has backtracked from most of them. He's not even advocating the position that he was at some conference and said. So I don't know who he is. He didn't help write our bill.
Tax credits to small businesses. That, to be honest, is political. You gotta say you like small business in America, or you're a communist. I'm biased here. It's like the one bit of the bill I actually wrote.
Our bill brings down rates. I don't know if you have seen Jonathan Gruber of MIT's analysis of what the comparison is to the status quo versus what will happen in our bill.
Charles, Nancy Pelosi's spokesperson said, "We've cited the work of dozens upon dozens of economists over the years. As the leader said today, Mr. Gruber played no role in drafting our bill." He's talked about specific writing of sections. He's been in the Oval Office with the creators as well as the president. What is going on here?
And she cited him, and now she claims she never heard of him. I think the moral of the story is if you're going to tell a lie on camera, make sure that there isn't a video that directly contradicts what you said coming out of your own mouth. Look, I think this could be important in the evolution of the bill. There have been three stages. In the first, there was the protest in 10. People said, I don't like the way it looks. I have the idea that it's not going to help, it's going to hurt us. Now we have stage 2 where it actually takes effect last year and this year. People realize that it really is having deleterious effects on them. And now the Republicans will be in a position in the new Congress to actually to destroy it by 1,000 cuts, starting with the repeal of the medical device tax, the individual mandate, the corporate mandate, and the coverage mandate. I think what Republicans ought to do is to keep their cool now, not to go nuts, to recognize that the most important element of this now is to overcome the media blackout on this. The way to do it is next year, when you control the Senate, start holding hearings on each of these repeals. At every hearing, you start by calling Professor Gruber. You show what he said. You ask him about it. There is no escape. He can't say, I didn't really mean it, it was off the cuff, because he said it again and again and again. So that will set the mood that all the things that people had suspected in stage 1, experienced in stage 2, was already known by the Democrats, hidden, and was deceptively covered up, and now they can't deny it. I think it will set the mood for repeal of these elements.
You know, he first surfaced, George, in a story that we did weeks and weeks ago, Jim Engel did, on the Halbig case, which is, by the way, received cert at the Supreme Court, the King case, which is the same, and it's a big deal. It could potentially really undermine this law. But I want to talk about the substance of something. I'm not going to play the whole soundbite, but January 2012, he says employers not offering health insurance, that's not the end of the world. It's not clear why we even want employers in this game. If this whole thing ends up where employers drop their insurance and people go to the exchanges, so be it. That may be, quote, where the system needs to move. This is what we have been talking about at this panel for years.
Sure, the Affordable Care Act is, at bottom, an attempt to drive more and more people into the arms of the state. That is, to dump more and more people into, if possible, Medicare and sometimes Medicaid in order to enlarge government control of our lives. That is the unchanging progressive agenda.
And how does, I mean, do you buy that?
That's one way to look at it. I think it's also an attempt to get a lot more people covered with health insurance, and the way to do that, you do have to get the state involved. That's more of an ideological difference we might have. I do agree that Republicans have a great play here politically if they do exactly what Charles says. The problem is they don't have much more standing than Democrats do. They don't have much more credibility out there than Democrats do. I think the biggest risk to this law right now is the Supreme Court because of what you said and what Gruber has backed up. I think it could be overturned by the Supreme Court.
About the exchanges.
Right, yes. But here, if they have the hearings, the Republicans should make no speeches. Let the other guy speak. Just show the Gruber tape and then ask, would you comment on this, sir? All you got to do is let the other side destroy itself.
Well, now, the Gruber tape.
Like
How about that?
Huh?
The Gruber confession.